Well, let me say that the total amount we had for the growth enhancement support is roughly in about 4.5 billion naira, and it's divided into two parts. One is the one where we subsidize the inputs for the farmers, and in addition to that, we put up 2.4 billion naira in the central bank into an escrow account that allows banks, when they lend to farmers and when they lend to agro dealers, the input suppliers. Of course, the banks will lend to them at the commercial interest rate, but we want them to be able to access finance at single-digit interest rate. So when Mr. President approved for us to do that, we used 2.4 billion naira in this escrow account to reduce the interest rate that the banks will charge for agro dealers from maybe 15% to 7%. So that's basically what we do. And the central bank, the Minister of Finance has done an incredible job in supporting us in this. She put up a loan guarantee facility from the Ministry of Finance to provide 70% guarantee of any bank lending for these farmers and agro dealers. So if they lost money, they get 70% of it back. And the banks were supposed to lend, I think, roughly 30 billion. Now, this is where I want to be very clear. Unfortunately, it wasn't as smooth as that because the banks lent maybe 2.4 billion naira. They didn't lend money for the agro dealers, which significantly disrupted our input supply this year. I wasn't happy at all with that because the government did everything it had to do, but the banks failed with respect to that. But going forward, it's a new area for them. I know we are going to improve. So between myself, the Minister of Finance, and Central Bank Governor, we'll work on it and improve the access to finance for next year for the input suppliers and farmers. To your point in terms of the budget, I think it's important to bear in mind that the agriculture we're doing today in Nigeria, it's not agriculture as a development program. It's agriculture as a business. As a business, we've opened up this sector to private sector investments. In the last 1 year of this administration, we've been able to secure well over 7.2 billion US dollars into this sector with private sector investment. That's very, very important. Whether it's in rice or whether it's those that are getting into cassava processing or those that are getting into expansion of food processing facilities from maize, from sorghum, from livestock feed, or even the dairy industry. So we've been able to do that. Of course, in life, if you have a little bit more money, you will do more. But I'm not going to take agriculture down to just issue of budget. We've been very successful so far in getting private sector investment, and we continue to do that. Now, we're also quite fortunate that the international community has noticed what is going on in Nigeria, and they are supporting us with a significant amount of financing as well.
Well, I didn't get the feeling that I got a response for my question. In terms of the voucher, I'm asking, can you give us exact amount or close to, in terms of the vouchers, how much is being budgeted for this, how much is being spent? The budget itself, would you say that we have enough money? Yes, I know the private sector is supposed to be the one that will run the business of agriculture, but how much, in terms of the budget that we have, you reckon this is good enough? But first, let's look at the issue of the vouchers. How much has been spent on the vouchers for the farmers in Nigeria?
Well, as I said to you, the amount we have for the vouchers total is 4.5 billion. And that's we have reached 1.2 million farmers with that. It is not up to the level that I wanted us to reach. For the reason I mentioned to you with respect to the banks not lending to the input suppliers, and so we could have reached much more farmers. So we have additional financing to be able to do our work for dry season. Because of the flood situation we face, we are going to deploy the balance of the funds we have to reach a lot more farmers in the dry season, for rice, for cassava, for yams, for plantains, and also for sorghum. Now, but I do want to say that with respect to the flood recovery food production plan, the total budget we have for that is 9.7 billion naira. Most of that is actually going again into improved seed, fertilizers, and maybe a little bit on logistics of getting it to farmers.
Okay, Honorable Minister, so in closing, we are to take your word for it that this flood will not affect significantly food supply for the next year.
Yeah, that is correct. I think that, you know, we have a shock on the system. That is clear. But I know that with the robust plan we've put in place to address the impact in those states that are affected, and to use farmers in other states that are not affected to produce more food, plus what we are doing in the dry season. In the dry season, for example, as that flow water recedes, we are going to face one challenge, which is on irrigation. And so we're working closely with the Ministry of Water Resources on that. We are also going to be deploying, I think, just to add to the issue of the inputs, we are buying about, I think, 5,000 pumps. We are going to invest in shallow wells, also some of the surface water reservoirs, so that as that flow water recedes, we can have some water with pumps that we can use to, farmers can use to pump and use in the dry season. I believe that the plan we have for the dry season cultivation is quite robust, as I mentioned to you, for rice. We expect to be able to add 1.3 million metric tons of rice in that dry season, plus dealing with the immediate shock, as I mentioned to you, for the farmers that are affected. I believe that you know, we've been able to significantly mitigate any negative impact that this will have. You know, I just want to be clear, you know, people shouldn't just bandy figures around, scare everybody as if we are all underwater. I know that there are people that have shark market practices simply want to scare people, and therefore they can bring in food to this country and flood our markets and kill our agricultural transformation going forward. We are smarter than that, and we know that.
Okay, thank you very much. We have been chatting with Dr. Akinwunmi Adesinsa, who is the Minister of Agriculture and Rural Development. Thank you very much for joining us from Abuja.